Hello again. In this video we're going to look at George Harrison's second solo album, Electronic Sound. It came out in 1969 on the same day in May as John and Yoko's second album, Life with the Lions. It consists of two long pieces played on a Moog synthesizer, although George only plays on one of them. So about this mysterious synthesizer. The Moog was developed by Robert Moog. Everyone pronounces it Moog, but he himself prefers Moog, so that's what I'm going to try to force myself to say in this video. Either way, people should know what you're talking about if you suddenly bring it up at a party, as you should. So anyway, there was this guy, Bernie Krause. In the early 60s, he'd replaced Pete Seeger as a singer in the Weavers, and by 1968, he was participating in a recording session for Jackie Lomax that was overseen by George Harrison. So Krause was not only a musician, but by now a kind of salesman and promotion guy for Moog. And George asked him to give a demonstration about this new electronic machine, how it worked, and what sounds could be made. That demonstration was recorded by George that month, November 1968. So what is exactly a Moog synthesizer? Well, it's basically a big bank of electronic components that you'd wire together in various ways and then manipulate with a piano-like keyboard and various knobs and buttons. At the time, it was very, very new technology, and it produced some very, very unusual sounds that really appealed to the musicians of the day. You can hear it on Beatles songs on Abbey Road, especially Maxwell's Silver Hammer. So anyway, George then bought a Moog, which were expensive and rare, and had the large, expensive thing installed at his house. There, he made his own recording, experimenting with the buttons and switches and stuff like that. He did this in February 1969, in between the Get Back sessions that became Let It Be and the sessions for Abbey Road. So the album Electronic Sound consists of these two recordings. George's is on side one and it's called Under the Mersey Wall. Bernie Krause's original demonstration, called No Time or Space, is on side two. So as I was listening to this album for the first time a few days ago, I felt the two sides were very distinct. And in the spirit of the album's time, I thought of side one as the good trip and side two as the bad trip. George's piece on side one is really pleasant and adventurous. I mean, it's openly experimental and electronic, hence the blunt title of the album, but there is real magic to the utterly weird and psychedelic sections of Under the Mersey Wall. It's 18 minutes long, and I bet there were quite a few hippies who sat back and dug the deeply spacey warbles and flashes and washes and stuff. Krause's No Time or Space is a little bit less pleasant. There are several bursts of white noise. It's more jarring than side one. It's altogether more angular, more clanging, less together. It's not bad or anything. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like it would be. A demonstration of what Moog synthesizers could do. It's also much longer, 25 minutes. Both sides, I mean the whole Electronic Sound album, is simultaneously futuristic and anachronistic. I mean, the futurism, of course, is because it's all synthesizer music, some of the first ever created, on technology so cutting edge that there weren't even instruction manuals. The few hundred or so people who had a Moog at this time just had to play around with them and see what they could do. But on the other hand, it's full of arrhythmic psychedelic weirdness. The major music artists of the day, the Byrds, Bob Dylan, Rolling Stones, the Beatles, had virtually all toned down the psych in favor of straight rock and or pastoralism. That was a big drive behind the Get Back sessions, to have the Beatles completely eschew flowery orchestral touches and clever studio effects and just play good old rock and roll again. And then, right after those sessions ended, George recorded and released Electronic Sound, a full album of formless, hallucinatory sound effects and no singing or percussion. I, for one, am glad he did. I love all the big post-psych albums from the Rolling Stones and Bob Dylan and all that, but crazy psych weirdness always has its place in my heart. The album had its own controversies. Krause has always maintained that he didn't know his demonstration was even being recorded, and he wasn't consulted about it being released. And if he had been, he would not have allowed it. Even more annoying for him, maybe, is that George took full credit for No Time or Space. The title, at least, was George's decision. It was a phrase that he got from his transcendental meditation days in late 1967. Maybe that's why he gets composer credit? Now, the front and back covers of Electronic Sound are paintings by George. The front shows Krause playing his Moog and holding an apple with the banks of knobs and wires and stuff behind him. He collects all the multicolored sounds and then grinds them out, shaping them into the finished music that they're supposed to be, like sound as a sausage factory. George himself is depicted as a blue smiley face, and beside him is his pet cat. The back cover addresses the negative vibes around Apple Records and the Beatles at the time. Press officer Derek Taylor is sitting in a wicker chair with the happy and sad faces of assistants Neil Aspinall and Mal Evans on the back of it. Derek is flying an angry kite. You know, like you do when your life is fraught with disharmony. Eric Clapton and his perm, representing, I guess, happier times, collaborating with non-Beatles, stands off to one side, although the 4 Beatles portraits do hang on the wall. Also on the wall is an upside-down picture of an Indian yogi. A nice sunny day outside the window is also upside down. At the bottom is the phrase, "grapple with it." Bad vibes. Speaking of grapple, electronic sound was actually released on Zapple Records, a short-lived offshoot of Apple for experimental recordings. I like electronic sound, and I hope to listen to it occasionally. Maybe very occasionally, but still, it's nice. I mean, it's different than, and not as effortless a listen as, Wonderwall music, but it's good and it's worth having. It's been remastered and reissued, although the most beautiful version that I've ever seen is a rare red vinyl original from Japan. Now that's gorgeous. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more Beatles solo album overviews, and I'll see you next time.